line of Eaton County, and there is some rotation in it. There has been nothing confirmed with this, but what we are seeing in the sky is that we're seeing that change in direction of the wind, and that's why we do have some rotation showing up, and that's why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this tornado warning, which includes 4 counties, parts of Berry County, parts of Clinton, Eaton, Ionia County, all up until 3:45. So I'm going to step away and give you kind of an estimated arrival time of some of these as this thunderstorm continues to make its way through parts of mid-Michigan. Again, we are also seeing the potential of having a lot of heavy rainfall, strong gusty winds, and even some hail. So let me get one of estimated arrival time for where the strongest part of this thunderstorm is currently happening, because we are seeing this move into northern parts of Eaton County right now. So I'm going to draw this out there for you as we do have this tornado warning that's in effect. Now, it will be very close to Sunfield right now from about 3 to 16 p.m. and then getting closer into more parts of northern Eaton County. So this is where you really need to be getting inside, getting away from the windows, and getting to your basement, because this is a dangerous situation where we do have this tornado warning that's in effect. Now, Grand Ledge, that's the next bigger town that this is going to be approaching around 3:37, where we're going to see this come in with this very strong thunderstorm, and where we do have this tornado warning that's currently in effect for northern parts of Eaton County. So I'm going to step out of the way and kind of zoom this out and show you that this is the strongest thunderstorm that we're tracking at this time as this very powerful thunderstorm is moving through. So you can see that we do have that tornado warning that's in effect. And Andy, if you want to jump in at any time, feel free to jump on in. But we do have this tornado warning that includes far southern parts of Ionia County, so south of Portland, also towards Grand Ledge, where we do have this tornado warning that's in effect. I'll switch back to the velocities here. And what we're looking for when we're looking at the velocity map is where we see the red and green come together. So that is where you have the two different directions of wind speed that will come together, and that shows that there is some rotation. And for what I'm seeing right now, so here is Lake Odessa, that is M50 at the bottom of your screen. So this is just to the north and west of that. There is I-96, and we are seeing some rotation and very far western parts, or I should say eastern parts of Ionia County, moving into parts of Eaton County just to the south of I-96, where we are seeing some of this rotation. This is a pretty rural part of mid-Michigan, but again, like I mentioned, this storm has had a history of producing some very strong wind gusts as well as some large hail. So even back to the west towards Clarksville, that's where we did see some hail reports not too long ago with this thunderstorm. So if you do live in the warning box, your phone is probably going off. If that is happening, you want to make sure that you're getting into a basement, get into an interior part of your house. If you don't have a basement, you want to find like a bathroom or a closet or something like that to ride this storm out as we are tracking the storm.
You should probably point out that we have the rotation has been there of one form or another for quite a while, way before this warning has been issued. So you get, with these very heavy rains, you get a big downburst of air that comes with it. That's where most of the damage has been done in the last couple of days, these huge downbursts. As the rain's coming down, it brings that air with it. So that now gets pushed forward, so you have a forward line of wind, and that might tie up with another outflow of another storm. So now you can create that rotation or some shear. Winds going in opposite directions, and they approach. So that's probably what's happening here. It's not really a huge area, but enough to create a quick spin up, and easily could produce wind gusts 70 to 80 miles an hour. So that's why that warning is in effect. You can see the red shade going all the way into parts of Eaton County and southwest Clinton County. Now also, this storm is really just dragging its heels. We could run faster, basically. About 10, 20 miles an hour, slowly east, southeast. So it's dumping extreme amounts of rain. And when those heavy pouring rains can reach higher up into the atmosphere, we also get hail reports. So there was that golf ball size hail in Clarksville about 35, 40 minutes ago. So it's moving off to the east, southeast. Summertime storms like this, really not associated with a front, more associated with the daytime heating and the high humidity. They pulse, so these will weaken, and then further down the road, maybe what we're seeing develop southeast of Sunfield will become the stronger part of this system. But certainly the heavy rains has really messed up travel on I-96 for the last half hour or so, and you see how it keeps up moving off to the southeast. We'll also be watching the storms that are down in Vermontville near Charlotte, as it's operating into some very unstable atmosphere where temperatures were low 90s, heat index numbers even approaching triple digits to our southeast. So plenty of moisture to work with, and when you get that to get organized and come down, you get these big down flows of air or microbursts, and that will break off branches, topple trees. You're also bringing in so much rain that the root systems of trees can't hold it up any longer. So you see a lot of toppled trees in this case. And of course, what does that do? It creates power outages, and I'm sure some of that is going on. So the rotation right now looking a little stronger, Colton, I think, in some locations.
Yeah, I would definitely say so too. So what we're looking for when we look at the velocity map is where we have the reds and greens that are close together, because we have green that is going towards the radar and the red that's going away. So that's the wind. So when you get those two next to each other, that is showing some possible rotation that's in the thunderstorm. And that's why the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning. So right here, at least this is where it appears to be the strongest rotation that's in this thunderstorm. So right here is Lake Odessa. So this is just off to the east of that. So this is along and south of I-96. This is where we do have this tornado warning that's in effect. So we're starting to get a little bit closer into mid-Michigan here. So Sunfield, if you do live in Sunfield, or if you have friends or family that live in that area, you want to get them on the phone, make sure they're getting into that safe spot, because we do have this tornado warning that is in effect. So for reference, this is where Portland is at. There's a lot of heavy rainfall in addition to this, so we've seen traffic really slow down on I-96 because of this. But this is right here where we're seeing the strongest rotation, where you have the green and the red color very close to each other. So this is where we're really watching for the possibility of seeing a tornado, a quick spin-up tornado with this
Also getting a max hail core there too. If we can switch over to DV1, the max 1 box, you can see it right behind you, Colton. You see that purplish and shade right in the middle there?
Yeah, right
Most
here.
likely a hail core that's developed in and around that circulation. And the height of these storms going up to 40,000 feet is maximizing all of that moisture out there as well. So it comes down pretty heavy. And at times the rainfall rates were at 2 inches per hour. It's taking a little more than 45 minutes for most of the area to clear, but that's what we're watching when it concerns that system. Not only is there hail, but there's also that rotation that's behind this whole system as it moves off to the southeast. But the rainfall itself is causing some issues, that's for sure, when it comes down that heavy in the gusty winds. And we're not leaving anybody out. There's only a couple more storms around. There was a good downpour through Williamston, now in Fowlerville. And as you go further out, not a whole lot going on off to the south. It's very warm and humid down there. And we're right on that dividing line off to the north where things are a little quieter and a little bit less humid. So we've got that front over the top of us. But again, we're talking about a tornado warning at this hour that goes until 4 o'clock as this one system just slowly moves southeast. So it's parts of southwest Clinton County, a good part of northwest and north central Eaton County, and a small part there of Berry going off to the southeast. No, I don't think there's any confirmation of any kind of touchdowns with this or any rotation yet spotted, but obviously on radar, sometimes you can get a lead time that goes 15 or 20 minutes before something ever happens, if it ever does. So we're still watching this as it moves off to the southeast. And as far as hail, well, there is that possibility, and there have been hail sizes up to 1 3/4 inch, which is basically golf ball size hail. So there are some cores of hail out there that we're watching coming through the area. And we'll put this on for you. It's a little better, easier way of seeing where the hail might be at this hour, moving across parts of Ionia County. And that's pretty significant as well. And again, the rainfall rates on these storms are pretty intense. I'll pop that up for you too so you can see how that is going as well. Hang on 1 second here and we'll click that on. So your rainfall rates with these storms really pretty significant, and that creates problems in itself with the heavy winds coming down there. So if I look at those purple shades, that rainfall rate pushing almost 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches per hour, and a lot of that is going to be there for about an hour time. So be aware of that as well with the heaviest rains and traveling in that direction. As far as the tornado warning, it's still in effect. We're still looking at all of the storm systems that are trying to emerge together. We got quite a bit of lightning in here as well as that storm moves off to the southeast. Let me back out a little bit and you can see this whole area moving southeast. Let me click over to our sweeping radar so we can get right inside of these. And while there's some rain shower activity to the east already, there certainly is a lot of rain coming, as well as the possibility of those winds that are rotation across southwest of Portland now, and we'll check in on those to see how they're doing at this time as well. We'll go right here and still have that rotation. You see east of Lake Odessa and basically just north as you go up M66 there. So that's the area of concern in that county. We are watching that closely, although no reports yet of any of that coming down. I want to take a look at a sky cam for you, and this is the MSU sky cam facing off to the west where the skies are dark. But the note here is that it rained a few minutes ago at MSU. Now the sun's back out and the air is heating up again and destabilizing. All the sky cams to the south are showing nothing but lots and lots of sunshine here, there, and everywhere. So again, we're keeping an eye on all of this for you, is that the tornado warning does continue until 4 o'clock as we go into the late afternoon hours. I'm sure there will be more action going on off to the southeast, and that would include Jackson. But I've kind of highlighted the points here of concern. These are a few little storms of size, but of still importance north of Stockbridge, headed over basically down I-96 into Livingston County. But the warnings are still issued for this one storm, which kind of is held together here, Colton, for quite a while as it drifts its way off to the southeast. Again, we would expect you, if you're in, especially into southwest parts of Clinton County and then the southeast parts of Ionia County, seeking shelter in a lower place away from windows, because these kind of winds, and a lot of reports the last couple of days with these storms, how people said the winds hit you and then disappear real fast, and that's pretty much the case here.
Yeah, Andy, if we want to switch over to the velocity here, what we have been seeing too here with this thunderstorm is actually, it appears to be at least some good news, at least from what I'm seeing on the velocity map. And Andy, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this. It looks like the rotation has weakened just slightly. This has been the area of concern right here, and we're not seeing a ton of bright colors with this, so that would indicate that the winds are stronger. In the latest radar scan, we get these every couple of minutes. It doesn't look quite as impressive, but still, we do have this tornado warning that remains in effect. I've been keeping an eye and with our partners at the National Weather Service. There have been nothing confirmed with this thunderstorm, but the potential is there that there could be a tornado, and that's why we have the tornado warning that's in effect for northern parts of Eaton County. Now, this is in southern Ionia County, right very close to Sunfield, so about to cross over into Eaton County at this time. So just to the south of Portland is where we have been seeing this. And like we mentioned, we've been keeping an eye on this particular storm because it had been showing signs of rotation for quite some time. And given the type of environment, these storms can kind of pulse up and then they kind of do fade away a little bit quicker. But at this time, we're still keeping an eye on right here as the possibility of seeing a tornado, just because there is some rotation that's showing up on radar. And this storm is moving incredibly slow. The latest estimate is moving at 20 miles per hour to the southeast. So that is very slow. So this has a tremendous amount of heavy rainfall. So that may also be a concern here. And the tornado warning also does specify that there is some hail in this. So we could see some very large hail with this thunderstorm. So I'm going to step off here and kind of switch over to a different radar loop, because this thunderstorm also has a lot of heavy rain with it, and you can see that here. But hopefully some of these thunderstorms that are a little bit further to the south of the main thunderstorm that produced a tornado warning, sometimes that can kind of cut off the air that's going into the thunderstorm, so it's not quite as unstable if the thunderstorm is starting to wrap in some of this air, because we're starting to get some rain down here and that is cooling down. So typically what you would see with this situation is that the thunderstorm that's off to the north will actually start to weaken. But at this time, we still do have the tornado warning everywhere that you do see in this red color, and that does include Grand Ledge. So that's why if you do live in Grand Ledge, you want to make sure that you are getting into your basements and into the interior part of your house. You're probably hearing tornado sirens going off in this part of mid-Michigan as well. The main concern just south of Portland, very close to Sunfield right now, is moving into northern Eaton County. The rotation not too long ago was right along M66. Now it's beginning to look a little bit further off to the south and east, where we are seeing this very powerful thunderstorm. But we're going to keep an eye on what's happening just a little bit further south of there. We are seeing the storm near Potterville and eventually getting into Charlotte. It looks like we have a new severe thunderstorm warning, which I'll step off here and give you kind of the updates here with that severe thunderstorm warning. That looks like it was just issued for parts of that area. Trying to see if we have any storm reports in. We do not.
Nothing yet. No reports in yet. Still some good circulation with that system, and it's broad. In other words, it's not really well defined, so it's just a broad anti-cyclonic flow here that is, or cyclonic flow, I should say, that is giving us that rotation, the potential. This is all just potential, but there has been some gusty winds and some very heavy rains. I want to point out that never at any time, and still not, have we been under a watch, have we been under any kind of special weather statement from the Storm Prediction Center. This is all driven by the daytime heat and sunshine, and then there is a weak front that's laying across northern parts of mid-Michigan, that you can see how everything's kind of going down I-96, paralleling that front. There will be a merge of these storms soon across that area. That may play a role in this as well. But that tornado warning, the red shaded polygon, goes till 4 o'clock. Likely to see that probably last, only because this storm system is just taking forever to weaken and move. It's not moving much at all. All the other storms are probably good downpours, but nothing severe with the ones that are now into Livingston County. And you go south of Mason, there's very little to talk about down there.
Yeah, and Andy, one thing that I want to point out here too, and we're seeing these thunderstorms, it's kind of an interesting setup in the atmosphere because there's so many different types of boundaries that are all across mid-Michigan. So you can actually pick one up right here into parts of Berry County, again, kind of getting closer to the Grand Rapids metro. See that little line there? That's one of those boundaries that's even being picked up on radar, likely being produced by this severe thunderstorm. It's pushing a lot of the cool air out away from it, and you are seeing these boundaries, but sometimes you get thunderstorms to form along that as well. So we still do have this tornado warning. Now, this is very far just to the west of the Lansing area. It does include parts, again, of Portland, or I should say of Ionia County, of Clinton County, as well as Eaton County with this thunderstorm as it continues to move in. We have been checking with our partners at the National Weather Service to see if there's any updates, if there is any confirmation of anything. There is not at this time, but still you want to treat this as a dangerous situation because we are seeing rotation within this thunderstorm. So that means that there could be a possible tornado with this. Now, one of the things we've been seeing these storms kind of strengthen and weaken and strengthen. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. We are starting to see more storms kind of pop up here just to the south of this tornado warned storm, and eventually it looks like they're going to collide. So we'll see what that typically means for these thunderstorms. It could form into a kind of a larger thunderstorm complex as it moves a little bit further out to the east, and eventually going to move into parts of Grand Ledge and maybe eventually towards the Lansing area as these thunderstorms are moving to the east very slowly at 25 miles per hour.
If you go to Max 1 and put that behind you, Colton, you can see these outflow boundaries. First of all, the significant one that shows up is going through Ingham County. So the storms that even blossomed up in Williamston, Weberville, and now headed in Fowlerville and off to the southeast, they had significantly cooler air, as well as that a big push of rain pushes the air out. So the first outflow boundary is right here. Do you see that curve? That originated from these storms going south. The storms, when originally formed here, you can see the outflow. So it's actually picking up the wind that's racing away from that. So if you're living in Hastings, you probably felt that go through, the gusty winds and probably slightly cooler air coming from the top of that storm. But what happens is when they merge with others, you get these to blossom up. So the storms that are here most likely forming in parts of Eaton County due to that flow coming out of these big thunderstorms. When they reach 40,000, 45,000 feet in the air, and it's all rain, just one big rain core, you can imagine the raindrops coming down so heavy, it creates their own wind, and that's what you get. And then with these, become mini fronts. This is a cold front now, racing into an area that may produce a couple of more storms, as it did right here. As you can see when the outflow boundary hit that. And the same thing now we'll be watching here in southeast parts of Ingham County with those storms that were just rainmakers in Williamston and Weberville. Now that outflow boundary is right here. So all of that reintroduces these storms, and they're all in that same core, so there's not much going on to the south. But inside the storms themselves, we're getting rotation because of all these different winds going different directions, and that's really what it is. It's wind shear, winds that travel in opposite directions with height. So as you go up, it might go this way, then go that way, and that can be induced by these outflow boundaries, and you end up getting these quick spin-up tornadoes, or maybe you just get a general circulation that we have to watch because it can fall out of those clouds very, very fast as it head off to the southeast. So Colton's monitoring what's going on at the National Weather Service, and I don't know if there's anything else to report there.
Yeah, Andy, we're just going to keep an eye on that. The latest update is that the storm appears to be weakening just a tad as it's starting to interact with some of those other thunderstorms there too.
There's a warning now for this storm up here in northern Kent County as well. And that's a pretty impressive storm system that's blossomed up and containing a lot of moisture. When this is all said and done, we're probably going to get rainfall totals of 2 to up to 3 inches, especially when it first started off in southern Ionia County traveling I-96. We've even seen on our traffic map everything very, very slow. We're basically now from Portland going to Grand Rapids, so 96 and its construction and the rain kind of all adding up to that. But we're about ready to get a merge here, and sometimes that's a good thing. Certainly going to be some very hefty rains coming into the metro area. Lansing probably going to be experiencing this a little after 4 o'clock, but we still are out in the air in the middle of Studio 10 to tell you that we've got a tornado warning in effect. Nothing has been reported on the ground. We've been watching the circulation when this storm first started in Kent County. It looked like there was going to be something going there, and that's what the Weather Service is watching as well. And when you get this kind of air mass, this is not with a cold front. This is not with something that's easy to forecast and say, here's where it's going to develop. It's just embedded inside these storms, and that rotation may be there for a little while longer. But as long as it looks like it can maintain itself, and I think it pulsed a little bit here now, it looks like it's strengthening again in southeast parts of Ionia County, all headed off to the east. And remember, it's only traveling at about 15 to 20 miles an hour, so that's why it can leave behind quite a bit of rainfall. I did check the Consumers Energy power outage map, and there's nothing out there yet. It takes a little while sometimes, so maybe these have happened more in the open country, but it can bring down branches, and if it's on a power line, we saw it happen in Jackson County last night, and then 2 nights ago, also Detroit area last night got hit pretty hard with those trees knocked down. Remember, the trees are fully leaved, so when you put this much water on a leaf times millions, the tree weighs 3-4 times what it normally does. Very easy for that to break off a branch, especially if it's an older tree, or with the wet ground, you've got root system that's in wet soil, a lot easier to overturn that as well, and saw some of those in Jackson County last evening. A couple of big trees just got uprooted as those heavy rains moved on through with those gustier winds. Colton, got any more information that you can pass along?
We can switch over to the other weather computer here because we just want to give a general groundwork here with the tornado warning and the severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect there, Andy.
Yeah, so here the red shaded area has been reduced obviously as the storm's gone through. It has not been extended, so that's good news. The thunderstorm warning is the yellow shade, which is basically kind of outlining that little middle red area that has a tornado warning. But that warning's going to go to 3:45. There has not been much in the way of weakening with that, and we're only 15 minutes away, so I would anticipate that's going to go all the way, and then they may have to additionally, if that storm doesn't weaken, they may have to additionally extend this warning. And again, I want to repeat, we've had no reports of any tornadoes. We've had no reports of any tornado damage. We've had large hail with this, golf ball size hail, gusty winds up to 70 miles an hour, and I think that's created by the downflow of all that rain. But other than seeing radar picking up that rotation, and it's been minuscule at times, that's why the warning is out, because it doesn't take much when it goes from there to being on the grounds. And this is the velocity. Again, what the radar can do is measure the raindrops, which way they are going and how fast, whether the raindrops are headed towards the radar, which is in Grand Rapids, or headed away from the radar. So you have the red versus the green. And we did have significant circulation, maybe a little bit here, but it really has changed in the way how it's looked in the last 30 minutes. I think this is still the circulation the Weather Service is still watching at this time. I believe that's true, Colton.
Yeah, Andy, we still do have that tornado warning in effect because of exactly that, but we're keeping an eye on the velocity because that is telling us where there is rotation with this thunderstorm, and it looks like it's right along that Eaton and Ionia County line where we do have the strongest part of this rotation. So we've been mentioning this part of mid-Michigan. Now, there has been some storm damage with other thunderstorms that are a little bit further off to the north and west. This particular storm has had a history of producing some very large hail as well as a lot of heavy rainfall, but obviously we do not have the tornado warning that's in effect until 3:45, and it's because we are picking up on some rotation. But as we've been mentioning, we've kind of have a few thunderstorms that have kind of blossomed up all near each other, so they're going to begin to interact with each other and possibly could congeal into kind of one larger thunderstorm as it makes its way off into parts of Clinton and Eaton counties here within the next couple of minutes with these thunderstorms, and they're producing a lot of heavy rainfall. So a lot of people have been asking us, how fast is this going and where is it going? So what this is doing, this is going very slow. This is not a quick moving system by any means. So this is only moving at about 20 miles per hour off to the south and east. So once it starts raining, if you do live in this part of mid-Michigan, it's probably going to rain for quite some time and produce a lot of heavy rainfall with this. So that is something that we have to be keeping an eye on because some areas have picked up quite a bit of heavy rain over the past couple of days here with similar type thunderstorms that kind of just pulse up bring down a ton of rain, bring some wind. We saw one in Jackson yesterday, but again, we still do have this tornado warning that's in effect. The rotation is not looking quite as strong at this time, but they still do keep the tornado warning in effect. We will actually see it happen live on air. If they do decide to cancel this or let it expire, we'll see that red polygon kind of go away when this happens. But we still do have this tornado warning that's in effect. The storm is moving very slowly. Like I mentioned, only at about 20 miles per hour. So it will be crossing over into northern parts of Eaton County. The next larger town that it could impact is Grand Ledge, that's off to the east. But we'll keep an eye on this, of course, because what's after Grand Ledge is starting to get into a little bit more populated areas into the Lansing area. So we're going to keep a very close eye on this. What I do want to do is kind of switch this over. I'm going to do it real quick. Is switch this over to a different radar source here.
I have noticed that the heights of these storms have come way down, so that's a good sign as it's going to its mature stage and then old age stage, kind of wiping itself out. It could re-enhance as it heads into more favorable air, but we were getting heights on the storm of over 40,000 feet. Now we're probably at 30,000 feet, so that is just one good sign to see out of all of that. But the two systems are about ready to become one, and I think they'll just be a really significant rainmaker. I'm starting to see reports back downstream, parts of Ionia County and certainly Grand Rapids area where like Thornapple Street is and Cascade is all covered with trees, and they're down. And again, a lot of that doing with the heavy rain that knocks these trees down. So there has been some history of that, and I'm sure as reports come in from southern Ionia County, the same will be had there as all of this heads east.
Yeah, Andy, it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up happening once these two kind of thunderstorms combine here. It's not going to take very long because they're getting very close to each other. So we're likely going to see kind of a bigger thunderstorm kind of develop here, and that will be producing a ton of heavy rainfall. But the same concerns still happen with this because these are still very strong thunderstorms, so there could still be some hail with this. One of the things the National Weather Service is talking about currently is the fact of how much rain could come down, because these thunderstorms are just not moving very quickly at all, and they're producing a lot of rain. We all know it's very hot and humid outside. There's a ton of moisture in the sky, so this is kind of squeezing that moisture out and producing these very heavy downpours with this thunderstorm, and that's why we've been tracking them for so long. But again, we still do have that tornado warning that's in effect for everywhere that's in that red shaded color. Goes in effect until 3:45. Does include northern parts of Eaton County, southwestern parts of Clinton County, and of course into Ionia County at this time. Now, the National Weather Service will have a decision to make here soon whether or not to extend any of these warnings further off to the east, which of course may start getting into the Lansing Metro. So that's something we're going to need to be keeping a close eye on. Of course, that's why we have been bringing you this warning information for you for as long as we have, because we know where this storm is going, and it is moving off to the south and east, where we do have a tornado warning that's currently in effect for northern parts of Eaton County, and then of course getting into western parts of Clinton County. So this is a pretty rural part of mid-Michigan at this time, but if you do live in this part of mid-Michigan, you want to make sure that you're getting into your safe spot, because you may see something spin up really quickly, a really quick spin of tornado in a situation like this, especially once these storms are kind of colliding a little bit. It's possible that this storm could kind of form into kind of a larger one as it begins to move off into the Lansing metro area here.
It seems to be better circulation again now with the system that is south of Sunfield, right along M50 that I'm seeing here on my radar, on my desk right with me. Some rotation there along M50 headed off to the east, so that's a concern of still this thunderstorm, maybe not so much the one that initiated all of this in southern Ionia County, again moving east, southeast at around 20 miles an hour. So that second storm now has more well-defined, a little bit of circulation.
Yeah,
there
Andy,
as
we
well.
may get some positive news here. It looks like the National Weather Service is considering to cancel this tornado warning. That's the latest update that we have from them. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this because it looks like this warning may not be in effect for very long. So it will be, but we're going to continue to be on air as we do have this tornado warning that's in effect for northern parts of Eaton County. And again, we do have seen these storms kind of pulse up and then kind of pulse back down. So we're going to continue to see that probably over the next couple of hours as these thunderstorms move on into mid-Michigan and into northern parts of Clinton County. Thankfully, we have not seen any ground truth to any of the rotation that has been happening with this thunderstorm, but we're going to continue to keep an eye on it because either way, there's going to be a ton of heavy rain with this, a lot of lightning. We don't have the lightning turned on because there are so many lightning strikes with this as these thunderstorms thunderstorms are kind of moving through parts of mid-Michigan.
You know, often when you have this tremendous amount of humidity in the air, you're going to get some funny looking clouds. Pictures, if you have any and you've taken some safely, you can send them off here to WILX.com, and we'll be loving to see the pictures of these clouds. Obviously, you're not going to stand in a pouring rain and lightning to take them. We understand that. But if you did, again, a lot of them look funky and like they might be serious, but they're so moisture laden and tend to hug the ground a little more than a normal thunderstorm cloud might do. So that would be interesting to see those. I haven't seen too many come in just yet, but we'll give that some time as well. Again, the tornado warning is supposed to expire at 3:45, which maybe they'll just let that happen in 6 minutes as this whole system heads off to the east, southeast. But we're looking at probably the strongest part of the storm now is going to be in the north central part of Eaton County. So it's north of Charlotte, probably getting very close into areas west of Grand Ledge. Sunfield is getting heavy rains, so we'll be keeping an eye on this as it gets closer to the Lansing area. It's a possibility that that morning may die off, and in 40 minutes we'll be talking about another one as the storms do pulse in this kind of weather. Really don't see a weakening in general until the sun's been down for a while and the daytime heating has expired. We're still getting quite a few outflow boundaries, these little curved green areas off to the southwest, so there's a lot of that getting pushed, and those can fire off more storms, and that's how pretty much these formed. And again, I don't want to leave anybody out to the south, and the reason we're not talking about you is there's not much going on other than having that outflow boundary go through southern Ingham County that moved in off of the storm system that was now in parts of Fowlerville and off towards Howell. That is just a good old thunderstorm, but the one that has some rotation has had a history of large hail, anywhere from 3/4 of an inch all the way up to 1 3/4, which is about the size of a golf ball. That's pretty severe for our area when they get that big. So these are merging. We can expect very heavy rains. A lot of street flooding going on when it's raining, especially as it starts to enter areas that have a lot of streets and neighborhoods. So be aware of that. And also the visibility. If you get into the really heavy rain, it's a great idea to pull over until that goes by. I just wouldn't travel into one of these because they're not moving. It may take you 15 minutes to get through all the heavy rains that are going on inside these thunderstorms. And that really is probably the biggest culprit of these storms, is those heavy downpours of rain. I haven't seen any hail lately out of them as I've been dissecting these. And there has still been a little rotation, but not much.
Yeah, Andy, we do have some positive developments that the tornado warning has been canceled, it appears. But I do want to show you the Farm Bureau insurance cam here because it actually has a really cool look at the thunderstorm that's off to the west that has been producing very strong wind gusts, as well as the possible tornado that was in effect earlier. So that's a live look. You can actually see the rain shaft here begins there and stretches all the way back here. So this is a very powerful thunderstorm that's just to the west. So this is in Delta Township facing that storm that is off to the west. But again, it looks like the positive developments. I'll pull up radar one more time and show you that the tornado warning is no longer in effect, I don't believe, as it has fallen off our systems. It might still show up on this system here. But again, this thunderstorm has had a history of producing some very large hail, as well as a lot of heavy rainfall across the area. So we are still seeing a severe thunderstorm warning that's also in effect until 4 o'clock. Now, this does include kind of the same areas for Clinton, Eaton, and Ionia counties here because this thunderstorm has been very strong across that part of the region. So we're going to be keeping an eye on these thunderstorms as they continue to make their way through. It actually looks like they kept the warning until 3:45.
Yeah, 3 more minutes and it'll be done.
Yeah, but either way you look at it, so about 3 more minutes that they will keep the warning in effect. But they did just issue a new severe thunderstorm warning, so that's why I saw pop up on the system. That goes until 4 o'clock for that same part of the area. So we've been monitoring this storm for a while now as it has been making its way through western parts of mid-Michigan. And again, we can actually show you that here with one of our sky cams. And I'll pull it up again because it was showing where the thunderstorm actually is at this time. And you can actually see the very heavy rainfall that is associated with this thunderstorm. And this is our Farm Bureau insurance cam. This is in Delta Township. So we kind of turn the camera to face off to the west where this thunderstorm is. And you can see where the light is and then where it gets dark. So this is the rain shaft that is associated with that very powerful thunderstorm that has had a history of producing some very large hail and has been tornado warned by the National Weather Service because there have been some signs of some rotation in this thunderstorm, but it doesn't look like the storm is quite as strong as it once was, but we still do have those warnings associated with it. And we'll continue to keep on this until we see that warning drop off. Andy, have you seen any storm reports?
I just checked on those, and other than the damage that initially came in through parts of Kent County and far western Ionia County, there has been nothing reported as of yet. Usually that takes a little while to trickle down, and I think the last thing that the Weather Service can get to is putting those local storm reports out. It's usually their last thing, and sometimes they're half an hour later. So, but we would assume that, again, some of these rainfall totals in southern Ionia County, parts of southwest Clinton County could be in excess of 2 inches, maybe approaching 3, especially in Ionia County, and these are very heavy rainmakers. It certainly has dropped the heat index down in some areas where the rain has gone through. It's now 80 in St. John's, 85 in Ionia, while it still feels like 95 in Charlotte. So you see that big differential there. But the storm system itself, not as big, it's not as tall, still producing rain. And again, we're 1 minute away from this expiring, and I think that's what they plan to do.
Yeah, it does appear so. But again, we'll continue to be tracking these thunderstorms as they continue to make their way into mid-Michigan. Again, the tornado warning will expire here in less than a minute for parts of mid-Michigan, but there still is a severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock with that same thunderstorm. So as it continues to move on into parts of the region here, especially getting closer to Lansing Metro, it looks like the tornado risk is beginning to diminish with this thunderstorm, but a tremendous amount of heavy rainfall, and there could still be some gusty winds as well as some large hail with this. It looks like the warning was just dropped off our graphic there, so the tornado warning is no longer in effect, but we do have severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect continuously right now. That's off to the west. So we're going to continue to gather more details. We will have more updates for you both on air and online throughout the rest of the evening, but for now we are going to toss it over to a quick break.
This has been a News 10 First Alert Weather Special Report.